the recommendations that the Commission will make, if accepted by the President, will avoid a repeat of what you term as rather the unfortunate events that have led to the establishment of the Commission. Is that correct?
That is correct, Commissioner.
Okay. Thank you. If I can then ask you to deal with the next topic that you address in your statement, commencing from paragraph 28 to 31, and there you outline your background and your service history within the South African Police Services. If I can just ask you to take the Chair and the Commissioners through that portion of your statement.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. My background history, I joined South African Police Service in 1987, and I worked in various provinces through the ranks. I worked in Free State, I worked in Gauteng, I worked in KwaZulu-Natal, Gauteng again, various provinces, Western Cape, deployed there, and then I worked also in Limpopo. Throughout my career, I acquired a broad managerial experience within the service. I attended a number of courses within the South African Police Service, both at junior ranks and at senior ranks. I have 38 years of service in the SAPS, and of which 25 years of that was at senior management level. I held up positions of unit commander. I held positions of Deputy Provincial Commissioner in KwaZulu-Natal. I was Divisional Commissioner of Protection and Security Service, and then I acted as Divisional Commissioner of Crime Intelligence, and then I became a Deputy National Commissioner for Operations, and thereafter I went to Limpopo as the Provincial Commissioner, and in 2016 I came back as a Deputy National Commissioner again, up to 2022, and since 2022 March up to now, I've been appointed as the National Commissioner of South African Police Service.
And you conclude in paragraph 31 that your trajectory reflects a broad spectrum of policing expertise, from grassroots operational leadership to strategic oversight at the national level. Correct?
That's correct, Commissioner.
You have attached a full copy of your CV, which we don't need to go to, but for the benefit of the Chair and the co-commissioners, it is on pages 63 to 72 of File 2. Thank you. Then, General.
Marked SFM1.
SF1. Thank you, I apologize to you. Yes, SFM1. Yeah. And General, the next topic that you deal with is SAPS and the criminal justice system, commencing from paragraph 32. And in those paragraphs, from 32 and 33, you refer to the three pillars that guides the South African criminal justice system. If I can request you to deal with those three pillars, which you deem to be foundational.
Thanks, Commissioners. The pillars are the South African criminal justice system is guided by a clear division of 3 pillars. The first one being the police, the second one being the prosecution authority, the third being the correctional services. The first pillar of the police serves as the front line of law enforcement, which involves the crime prevention, crime investigation, gathering of evidence, apprehension of suspects, with a view to secure evidence for the courts and ultimately bring that to the next pillar, which is the second pillar, which is the National Prosecuting Authority, which is responsible for deciding whether there is sufficient evidence exists to prosecute or not to prosecute in that specific matter. And within this pillar, you have got then the judiciary, and which is the magistrates and the judges, which NPA and the subs or the state will put the case forward, and the magistrates and our judges will then conduct a fair and impartial trial to determine the guilt or the innocence of the accused person. The third pillar is the correctional services that takes over once the court has delivered its verdict. This sector is charged with enforcing and administrating sentences imposed by the courts. Their work involves incarceration of offenders and also the management of alternative community-based sentences, rehabilitation programs, and of course reintegration back to the society. Taken together, these 3 pillars work in concert to uphold the rule of law, protect communities, ensure justice is served, and foster public trust in the criminal justice system.
So in essence, the 3 pillars are interdependent.
Correct, they are interdependent to each other. Also, hence, it's important for each one to remain independent from the other, and no encroachment between one against the other.
Thanks. And then
I'm hanging with the elders at Wimpy, and for the first time, I'm not being sent around for anything while we eat. No more, hey, boyo, go get.
take the commission through that section.
The police, in a closer look, the establishment of a single police service is provided for in Chapter 11 of the Constitution. Section 199(1) states that the security services of the Republic consist of a single police force, a single defense force, a single police service, and any intelligence service established in terms of the Constitution.
And then you proceed over the page, you refer to sections 205, section 206, and section 207 of the Constitution, which you say they also deal with matters relating to the police service, insofar as they pertain to structural elements, political responsibility, and control over the service in its entirety. Correct?
That is correct. Section...
Yes, 205, which you then deal with from paragraph 36, if you can proceed.
Yeah, section 205 of the Constitution is paramount importance to understand the context of the obligation placed on the national legislation to clarify matters relating to policing. 205(1) provides for the National Police Service must be structured to function in national, provincial, and where appropriate, the local sphere of government, giving effect to the implementation of a model that seeks to create a uniform system of policing. Section 205(2) of the Constitution provides that national legislation must establish the powers, functions of the police service, and must enable the police to discharge its responsibilities effectively, taking into account the requirements of the provinces. Section 2053 provides that the police service is to prevent, combat, and investigate crime, to maintain public order, to protect and secure the inhabitants of the Republic and their property, and to uphold and enforce the law. Section 206(7) provides for a legislative framework to regulate municipal police service to augment policing by stating that the national legislation must provide a framework for the establishment of powers, functions, and control of municipal police service. Furthermore, Section 207(2) of the Constitution states that the National Commissioner must exercise control and manage the police service in accordance with the national policing policy and the directions of the cabinet member responsible for policing. In my understanding of the cabinet member responsible for policing refers to the Minister of Police.
And if I can just stop you there, perhaps.
Before you
Yeah,
go
yes.
on, yes, thank you, Mr. Matao. General, I do know that later you do explain directions, for example, and you put in strategic, trying to tell us what exactly the directions envisaged in Section 2072 are. But can you, at this stage, just very broadly tell us what the distinction is between policy, directions, and operational or managerial matters? I'll tell you why I'm asking you. I'm asking you because further down in your affidavit, you start off by stating your main proposition, which is that the minister's instruction or disbandment instruction strayed onto operational or managerial matters. But then you have two alternatives, and you say, if, however, it is found that the instruction was policy, then, but the then being an argument against the minister's entitlement to have issued the instruction. And you have a further alternative. Alternatively, if it was a direction as envisaged in Section 2072, again you have an argument against the minister's entitlement to have issued it. Because of those possibilities, I want you to just tell us what exactly the differences are. What are the inner and outer contours of each one of these? It doesn't matter if you repeat those when you get to that part of the statement, but up front, I just want us to get an idea of what these are.
Thanks, Commissioner. My understanding is that the Minister is responsible to issue a national policing policy. In other words, that is the direction in terms of what are the priorities that we need to do as the police. For example, there could be priorities about, let's say, gangsterism or cash in transit, that is troubling the country. That is a strategic direction that we need to deal with that. But the how part of it, how many resources are going to use, of course, I will inform the minister as to what resources are going to use. But the how part of it, it is, according to me, is an operational matter where I will decide how many resources in terms of personnel, vehicles, and how are we going to do this job. I don't expect the minister to say, get involved into the how part of it in terms of executing the functions. But I expect that he can identify the priority. Yes, he can talk to in terms of what he thinks. There is no problem even if he can say how he thinks, the how part, but not that he get involved in to say, do it in the following manner. So in this case, my issue is, for example, in this case of the political killings task team, it is a task team that is working at a lower level under a provincial commissioner. If ever he found anything wrong with the task team, he could say, that task team, I think you need to disband it, and we can engage in the terms of the why and how and so on. But to go further to say disband, but then after saying disband, then you go further to say now, not even tomorrow. I think that is totally encroachment into the mandate of the National Commissioner in terms of performance of my duty. I don't know whether I answered.
From that response, I think I do get the how, which is an operational issue that falls under the purview of your functions. I do get that. But you seem to be lumping policy and directions together. So I'm still in the dark as to what the difference is between policy and directions. Can you now forget about the operational matters and just give us an idea of what the difference is between policy and directions as envisaged in Section 2072 of the Constitution?
Thanks, Commissioner. The policy will be like, we do have the Police Act. The Minister is getting involved in development of that legislation, and there is a policy recently, national policing policy. There wasn't one. There is one that recently was issued that directs us in terms of what we need to prioritize. So it talks more on what is it that we must prioritize, because the Constitution in Section 2053 tells us what must we do, but there will further be priorities that are out there in terms of various provinces. Then the Minister, yes, can issue policy to say, I need us to go in this way, issue legislation or issue extra policing policy like he did.
That's the policy as I understand you. And directions?
Directions, according to me, it is any directives you can issue to say in terms of what matters must we prioritize in terms of, like I gave an earlier example to say you prioritize cash in transit, for example. You can say, yeah, there is problem of cash in transit, or there is problem for, like in his case, he said, we have problem of illegal mining in the country. Let's do something about it. That is a direction. And we go and to deal with the how part.
When dealing with policy, you touched on something that was issued recently. I actually had a question here that asks whether the policy is contained in one document or in several documents. When you say there wasn't any before and that one has been issued recently, so that probably means there's only one document, or am I wrong?
Yeah, if one takes, my understanding policy will be what the Minister will express, mostly together with the rest of South Africans, through legislation. And the national policy, yes, there was never one. There is one now issued.
Okay. Oh, thank you. If the Minister were to stray from policy or the directions envisaged in Section 2072 of the Constitution, stray onto operational or managerial matters, would a national commissioner be legally entitled to disobey the minister?
Just come again, Commissioner.
Would a national commissioner of police be entitled to disobey an instruction by the minister if that instruction strayed onto operational matters? Would the national commissioner be legally entitled to say to the minister, Minister, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to act in accordance with your instruction?
Yeah, I take it that, yes, the National Commissioner can say that.
Now let me be direct and ask you about yourself. If you were to find yourself in such a situation, would you disobey the minister? If the minister were to give you an instruction that strays onto operational or managerial matters, would you, General Masemola, say to the minister, I am not going to obey that?
Yeah, it depends, Commissioner, but yes, I will. It's a matter that is career limiting, but
it depends on what?
It depends on how he does it.
It's simple. It's
yes.
simple. You have said operational and managerial matters are within your remit and not the minister's.
Yes.
So I am saying categorically to you that in what I posit to you, the instruction would be falling outside of the minister's remit and be straying onto operational and managerial matters. It's that clear.
Yeah, no.
Would you, General Masemola, tell the minister, I am not going to obey that?
Yeah, no, I will tell him that I won't do it. But as I said, it depends. So he must explain why doing certain things.
So if he explains himself, would you then obey, even if the instruction still strayed beyond the minister's powers and strayed onto your powers and functions?
Yeah,
I want to understand that depends. So if the minister explained him or herself satisfactorily to you, would you then say, Minister, even though you are encroaching onto my area of function, I will obey you. You are acting unlawfully. You are not acting in accordance with Section 207(2) of the Constitution, but because you have explained satisfactorily to me, I'm going to obey you. Would you say that?
Well, if he explains and I find the reasons acceptable, then I will. But if I find them not acceptable, then I will not comply with that instruction.
Explain yourself. Explain yourself. Why would you obey an instruction on something that the minister has no legal, no constitutional basis to do? Why would you obey that? Just explain that. I want to understand you.
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner. What I'm referring to, well, my understanding and his understanding probably will differ. But if he says, this is what I'm giving this instruction, you must do it, and there is an explanation why should one do the instruction, we will engage on such a matter, whether as to where is his powers, does it end up?
General, I am sorry to belabor this, but I just want to understand your thinking. It is not policy. It is not directions as envisaged in 2072 of the Constitution. So if it is none of those, why would you ever obey the instruction? Where would the legal entitlement for the minister to give the instruction come from?
No,
and on what legal basis would you obey it?
Yes, Commissioner. No, it is very clear that is clear-cut, is not his, then I will not obey it. I will not do it.
I said so right at the beginning. I said,
I will not do it.
if the instruction strays onto your area of function, would you obey it?
Oh,
and
no.
you said it depends. That's what I'm trying to understand.
Oh, no. I will not do it. That one, straightforward, no.
Thank you, Mr. Mutau.
No, thank you, Chair. I could pick up that there was perhaps something that was lost in the discussion, or perhaps the questions that the Chair poses.
Thank you. Yeah,
Thank you.
Maybe the General forgot because I introduced my question quite carefully,
No.
referring to the straying and so on. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. In fact, this issue that the Chair is raising is something that you deal with in your statement, and it will also inform how you reacted to the instruction to disband. But let us proceed, and we will get to that topic. Like the Chair said, it is a matter that you deal with later. In paragraph 42, after you've dealt with SAPS in closer detail, you conclude by saying, central to effective policing is a tiered chain of command and control. The National Commissioner is appointed to serve both as a supervisor and commander and operates within a defined legal framework, including taking directions from the Minister to promote alignment with constitutional principles of transparency, impartiality, and service to the public. And in this paragraph, you articulate that the operations between yourself and the Minister are defined within a legal framework. So in other words, the taking of instructions from the Minister happens within the contours of the legal framework as defined. And in particular, in this instance, you were discussing section 2072 with the Chair. Is that correct?
That is correct, Commissioner.
Okay. So the it depends, as you were dealing with earlier, I understood you to be saying it depends if the instruction is a lawful one or not.
Yeah, if the instruction is lawful, one will comply. If not, then one will not comply with it.
Yes, and I think perhaps what you did not understand from what the Chair was asking was the Chair predicated the question by asking that assuming an instruction does not fall into either policy or direction, but it strays into your operational area, and that instruction is an unlawful one, would you obey it? Would you implement it? I think that's the essence of what the Chair was asking.
All right.
But if I can then ask you to deal with the next topic, which is the Office of the National Commissioner, your office. And commencing from paragraph 43, you deal with your key areas of responsibility or your responsibilities. So if I can just ask you to please take the Commission through that section.
Thanks, Commissioner. My responsibilities include the following as a National Commissioner: management and control, the management and control of the police service adhering to national policing policy and directives from the Minister of Police. In terms of the constitutional mandate, ensure the police fulfill their constitutional mandate, which includes preventing, combating, and investigating crime and maintaining public order, protecting the people and their property, and uphold and enforce the law. So my understanding also there is that the minister in giving directions, those directions must complement or assist in attainment of this Section 2053 of the Constitution. Strategic leadership responsible for maintaining an impartial, accountable, transparent and effective police service. In terms of personnel management, I'm responsible for recruitment, appointment, promotion, transfer and discipline of employees of the service, including the appointment of provincial commissioners. On operational support, I ensure the provision of vital services such as crime intelligence, criminal records, crime stats, forensic lab. And in terms of internal security, responsible for maintaining the internal security of the nation. On international cooperation, international police liaison, we facilitate cooperation with foreign police and also appointing liaison officers. I do reports in terms of reporting to the Minister of Police and the President. I account to Parliament and various other legislative oversight bodies, including Chapter 9 institutions.
Then you proceed in paragraph 44 and following to deal with your interactions with the minister and how they translate when implemented. If I can just ask you to commence from 44.
In sum, I, as the National Commissioner, must implement policy and strategic direction determined by the Minister. But I am responsible for the operational and managerial control of the police service. This is due to the fact that the constitutional scheme in express terms removes the operational and managerial control of the police service from the hands of the political actors.
Before you go on, Section 207(2) of the Constitution does not use strategic before directions, and you are introducing strategic before directions in 44 for the first time. Is this as a result of an interpretative exercise? If not, just explain that. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with it, but I just want to get an idea where the strategic comes from.
The strategic direction, the national policing policy come from the minister, and the direction, my interpretation here was the direction include the strategic direction.
Thank you, General.
Thank you, Chair. And then in paragraph 45, you had just dealt with the fact that, according to your understanding, the constitutional scheme in express terms removes the operational and managerial control of the police service from the political actors, from the hands of the political actors.
That is correct, Commissioner.
And then you proceed from paragraph 46 and following, if I can ask you to deal with those.
As the National Commissioner, that's accountable to Parliament, but also insulated from undue political influence. The constitutional scheme is axiomatically deeply rooted in and foster the doctrine of separation of powers. I say more herein later below. I have the autonomy to exercise of my discretion in relation to the control and management of the police service, of course within the prescripts of the governing legislation. I understand my function to be independent from political interference other than receiving directions from the Minister of Police.
Okay.
I deem it important.
Then if I can just stop you there. After dealing with those preceding paragraphs that outlines the scheme and the interaction between yourself and the minister, you then deal with or provide the senior command structure within SAPS. And you say part of that is going to be relevant to the issues that the Commission is looking into. So if I can just ask you then from paragraph 51 to deal with the personnel that reports to you as outlined commencing from 51.1.
If we go to the command structure of the police, is right at the top you have deputy national commissioners. It's not in any, they are not put in any way of seniority whatsoever, but you have a deputy national commissioner for policing, in this case Lieutenant General Msigidi. Then you have deputy national commissioner for crime detection, that is Lieutenant General Sibia. You have Deputy National Commissioner for Corporate Services, that is Lieutenant General Dimpane or Nkua acting. And you have the 9 provincial commissioners, which include Lieutenant General Mkonazi, who is the Provincial Commissioner of KZN. There is a depiction of the structure on paragraph 51.4. You could see the 3 deputies below reporting directly to the National Commissioner. On the one side, you have the provincial commissioners. On the other side, you have the national head of DPCI. In our terms, I must just explain that with regard to DPCI, it's not directly reporting to me. I've got a dotted line reporting to me. It reports to the Minister of Police, and with me I provide certain support that is your budget. That's one of the recommendations I'm sure I'll be doing at this commission, that you cannot have half a bread. We either have a loaf of bread or have no bread.
And perhaps if I can just deal with that point that you are making, and you don't necessarily need to go there. Towards the conclusion of your statement, you say that there are certain recommendations which you wish to make for the Commission's consideration, and you say you will file a supplementary statement at a later stage where you deal with those. And I assume this issue that you are talking about now, when you say part of the recommendations in the form of submissions that you intend to make, being the DPCI's reporting partly to yourself and to the Minister, is one of the issues that you're going to address in that supplementary statement that you're going to file.
That is correct, Commissioner.
Earlier on, in your statement, you said in paragraph 48, you will say more about the issue that you were dealing with vis-a-vis your role with the Minister. And you said you'll say more below. You continue from paragraph 52 with that topic. In essence, you say in 52, the point that you've already made, that the arrangement, as you understand it, flowing from section 2072, is that the Minister is responsible for providing strategic direction, and you, as the National Commissioner, are then tasked with the implementation thereof. And in 53, you refer to day-to-day operational and managerial performance and execution of the police service, which rests, according to you, squarely in the hands of the National Commissioner. And you cited an example that you referred the Chair to earlier, that a Minister may direct that the combating of cash in transit robberies should be a priority, and that development of plans, the issuing of instructions, allocation of resources and implementation thereof remains the responsibility of the National Commissioner. Am I correct? That's what you were conveying earlier in the discussion with the Chair and in response to those questions.
That is correct, Commissioner.
And I think the one point that you sought to make with regard to the implementation of a direction from the minister, let's use that example of a cash in transit, which is the one you used earlier. Can the minister prescribe to you as to when you should deploy the resources to achieve the policy direction that he has provided? Can he tell you when you must deploy the resources, how you should deploy them, and how many?
No, the how part he will not describe, because that depends on, it will depend on me and on what we find on the ground as we do our plans. And
equally, can the minister say to you or direct that you should disband the implementation program that you have put in place, using this example of the cash in transit robberies? Can he give you a direction to disband and to disband it immediately?
No, actually not. He cannot say disband such a low-level team. That team is not working at strategic level. It's a very low level down on the ground. And you can also deal with the how part as to you must do it now. That is within the purview of the National Commissioner and Provincial Commissioner.
And I think earlier on you touched on the fact that if there were to be any considerations, perhaps, or issues that the National Commissioner, the Minister is inclined that the National Commissioner should consider, you would expect a discussion, I think you said earlier, to the Chair.
Yeah, surely there will be engagement so that one understand why would he come to a specific conclusion. If we want to disband a team of cash in transit, I would have to understand as a National Commissioner as to what are the reasons why you get to such level.
Mr. Matau, before you move on, if I may, you are discussing a disbandment stage. I just want to clarify. Do you consider it would you consider it as an encroachment on your powers, operational authority, if the minister said to you, you should constitute a task team to look at cash in transit issues or to deal with that? So is that an encroachment according to you?
No, to say establish, do something about cash in transit, that is not encroachment. I will, as the National Commissioner and the relevant officials, establish such a plan and fight that specific crime. So it doesn't tell me how many people I must use, how, the when. He says cash in transit is a problem, attend to it. Either you do a task team or you do whatever, but attend to it.
Yes. Sorry, please carry on.
Yes. The cash in transit is a problem. As a National Commissioner, I'll attend to it. But to say to me, go and take so and so from Province X, so and so from Province X, and do this, that will be encroachment, because that's the how part. But defining the problem is strategic for him. I don't have a problem.
Yes.
But to get to the who, how, what, when, that I regard it as encroachment. Yes. Even to say disband,
constitute a task team to deal with cash in transit issues. So it's as specific as instructing that.
No, that is not, that's encroachment. It's not within him to say, constitute a task team. Myself and the Provincial Commissioner will decide how. Maybe we're going to use not a task team, but use just a police station, for example. Maybe the problem is located at a police station. So yes, that will be encroachment.
Thank you.
Advocate Mutau, before you continue, General, can I take you back to paragraph 43, same section of your evidence? Are you there? Paragraph 43 talks about the key responsibilities of your office as National Commissioner of Police. Where does one find those? In which instrument? Is it in the Police Act or the National Policing Policy that you talked about? Where does one find those specific responsibilities that you've highlighted from sub 1 to sub 9?
You find them in some come from the Constitution and also in the Police Act. And also in our strategic plan, you do find them.
In the strategic plan?
Yeah, in our sub-strategic plan.
And
the Constitution, Police Act, and our strategic plan.
And perhaps, Commissioner Kumalo, we will also try and deal with that with the prescripts witness that we will lead, so that we were able to assist the Commission in terms of the legislative layout. Thank you. Then, if we can just conclude that
Commissioner manages the operational and administrative manages the operational and administrative execution of the direction. Political versus managerial control. The minister holds political control and accountability, whereas the National Commissioner has managerial and operational control. Direction versus implementation. The minister gives direction and the National Commissioner is responsible for implementing the direction. That is where the how and so on comes in.
Okay. Thank you. Then, General, if I can just ask that we deal with the next topic in your statement, which is the establishment of the Political Killings Task Team. You deal with it commencing from paragraph 56. And if I can just ask you to start there.
Thanks, Commissioner. On the establishment of the Political Killings Task Team,
Yes.
KwaZulu-Natal has historically experienced significant level of violence driven by political factors. In response to the increased incidence of political violence and fatalities in the KZN, up to the 2018, the President of the Republic of South Africa, Mr. Ramaphosa, tasked his security cluster to mobilize resources. He appointed the IMC, which is the Interministerial Committee, comprising of the Ministers of State Security, Ministers of Defense and Military Veterans, Minister of Police, Minister of Justice and Correctional Services, under the leadership of Minister of Police and Minister of Defense, Minister Bengele, which was mandated to ensure that those responsible for political incidents are held to account. Its purpose was to coordinate national and provincial efforts, including intelligence and prosecutorial support against politically motivated violence. The team was established by directors general of the respective departments that I have just named the ministers thereof, as stated above, to implement the directions of those ministers. The team was not created through legislation or gazetted through a regulation. It was essentially an ad hoc interdisciplinary unit within the SAPS and the National Prosecuting Authority, tasked with investigating political killings with the operational focus in KwaZulu-Natal, but of course later it did extend nationally to other provinces. The IMC directed the establishment of the multidisciplinary task team, including members from key law enforcement and the prosecution authority, to create an investigative and prosecutorial strategy for politically related cases in the province. The political killings task team was overseen by a national steering committee, the IMC, and of course they report to the president.
Before you continue, I have noticed that you describe National Steering Committee later, at paragraph 73 to be exact. But can you please describe it here? What exactly was the National Steering Committee?
The question of the commissioner is?
What exactly was the National Steering Committee? I'm saying that I am aware that you do describe it later at paragraph 73, but I want you to describe it where you mention it for the first time, which, if I'm not mistaken, is here.
Yes. The National Steering Committee consisted of the senior officials at DDG and DG level, let's say Lieutenant Generals and also above. This steering committee was chaired by the national head of the DPCI, then was General Libya, consisted of the departments of the National Prosecuting Authority, the National Director, and his or her officials were part of that, the Correctional Services, the SSA, the police formations, that is the deputies of detectives, deputy of policing, the project leader of the political killings task team was giving reports to the steering committee. So that steering committee was the one that will listen to the reports of the political killings task team, and they report, this steering committee will report to the IMC.
Thank you, General.
Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Matawa, before you proceed, General, what does it mean that the National Steering Committee, the IMC, and the President oversaw the PKTT? What is to oversee in this case? And I'm asking, maybe I'm explaining my question. I want to understand what powers, if any, did the NSC, the IMC, and the President have over the activities and operations of the PKTT?
Yeah, the use of the word oversee might have English encroachment, but all one word is saying is that the National Steering Committee, they deal with the operations of the political killings task team. They untangle problems and give direction, and they report to the IMC. The IMC will listen. If IMC feels that there are areas that needs their intervention, for example, in this case, there was a need for a special court, then the minister responsible, which is justice, then will take that up upon himself or herself with the Director General to go and sort out that specific matter. But they were not, the IMC and the President were not involved in what the political task team is doing. The political task team was directed by the Provincial Commissioner of KwaZulu-Natal and the project leader.
Thank you, Commissioner Abdullahi. Yes, please proceed. You were about to commence with the second sentence of paragraph 60, where you talk about the PKTT at its inception and who it was led by and who its operational coordinator was.
Yeah, the Political Killings Task Team at its inception in 2018 was initially led by a Major General Ramatswele, and Lieutenant General Kumalo was the operational coordinator. When
Sorry, and can we just stop here? When we say Lieutenant General Kumalo, we are not talking about Commissioner Kumalo, who's currently sitting as one of the co-commissioners. Am I correct?
Yeah, no, I'm not referring to the co-commissioner Kumalo who is here. This one is a Lieutenant General Kumalo, head of crime intelligence, but he was brigadier by then. Yeah, you will encounter a lot of Kumalos in this, but it has nothing to do with the work of what they are doing. And those that I know, they do a good job. I don't know the co-commissioner.
National Commissioner, if I understand, then you're saying because of the many Kumalos that we are encountering here, Commissioner Kumalo is not a deployee of the PKTT.
No, he's not. He's not. It's just coincidence. Thank you.
No, thanks. To come back on a serious note, you've then informed the Commission about the leadership structure of the PKTT at the time when it was introduced in 2018. And in in the next paragraph, you say you were the deputy.
Mr. Mdau, sorry, before you go to your next paragraph.
Yes,
we do encounter quite a number of Kumalos in the documents. It might be helpful, say, in this case where you say Lieutenant General Kumalo, give us a first name. Because I see there's, as you would have noticed, there's quite a number of them.
Okay, this one we're referring to here is the Dumisani Kumalo.
There's even, I think, a Major General Kumalo, or am I mistaken? Later on, at some point, there's reference to a Major General Kumalo as well. Or am I wrong?
Yes, there is a Major General Kumalo. It's another one.
You should please do the same when you get to that Major General. Do what my co-commissioner, Commissioner Baloyi, has just said. Mention the first name of that Major General Kumalo. Then there will be less confusion for us. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry for the interruption, Mr. Mutao.
No, thank you. Chair, co-commissioners. And National Commissioner, you understand that request, where you know that there is more than one surname or one official with that surname. For ease of reference, the request is to mention the name so that it is clear which of the surnames.
Yeah, no, I will do so, but maybe during break I will try and get all the names. I might not know the other names.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Yes, paragraph 61, you indicating that at the time when the PKTT was established, you were a Deputy National Commissioner policing at the time, and you were responsible for the initial call-up of members to be part of the PKTT, which you say is evident from the attached call-up instruction, which is SFM2. If I can just ask you to then go to file 2. SFM2 commences from page 73.
Correct, Commission?
Yes. Yes, I think we're there now. The document commencing on page 73, you describe it as a call-up instruction. And you'll see its purpose is outlined in paragraph 1 to say the purpose of this information note is to request the approval of the strategy, its implementation plan, and funding for investigation and prosecution of political related cases in KwaZulu-Natal. Then the next paragraph is the background. If I can ask you to just focus on the second unnumbered paragraph there. The IMC met with the task team investigating these cases on 21 May 2018, and one of the preliminary observations was that this multidisciplinary task team was working in silos and it does not have an investigation and prosecutorial plan or strategy that is aligned to overall government priorities contained in the National Development Plan, NDP 2030, the Medium Strategic Framework, MTSF, and other key policy prescripts, i.e. creating safe and security environment. If I can just ask the yes, if I can just ask that you explain the statement that the team did not have an investigation and prosecutorial plan or strategy.
Yeah, what that refers, Commissioner, is that before the establishment of this team, there was a previous team. It was a provincial team that was investigating this very same political killings. So, as we were meeting with the IMC that time, we're evaluating the functioning of the previous team. And that's when we pick up that, yes, the team didn't have a prosecutorial strategy or investigative strategy. So they were not integrated. There was no prosecutor-guided investigation. And the team didn't have an investigation strategy. So those are the findings of the team that was there, that we were inheriting. Of course, I happen to be advantaged that I know also the establishment of that previous team. I was involved. It was more provincial team, and it made no successes at all. So those remarks are referring to that, which then we're saying, let's rework, let's come with a new strategy and way forward.
Okay, so in essence, and I mean you deal with this later on in your statement, you say there was a task team that was investigating or had the very same mandate, as it were, to investigate the political killings in KwaZulu-Natal, which was provincially based, and it was later disbanded and substituted with this one.
Correct.
And the remarks that I directed you to relate to or refer to the previous task team.
Correct.
Okay. And I mean, you'll say more about it when you deal with that aspect.
Yeah, no, I'll say more when we
a little later. Then if I can ask you to turn to page 79 of that document, you will see monitors, just in brief terms, deal with that aspect of monitoring and evaluation.
Yeah, with regard to monitoring and evaluation within the task team, we said that there will be a tactical joint operations center. Commanders will meet on a daily basis, inspect dockets, direct operations, and the commanders will also, the tactical joint operational commanders and the mission area joint operational center will meet on a weekly basis. In other words, there was a method which the team is being monitored regularly from provincial level. That's where your march off is. The tactical jobs, there were about 4, divided into 4 were in the province where there was a problem by that time of political killings. So at that tactical level, they will meet daily. Province, they will meet weekly to monitor what is being done, what assistance can be done, and review, where necessary, their strategies.
And if you look at the second last bullet on that page, it says the status report will be submitted to the Criminal Justice Prevention and Security, JCPS, Director General's Cluster, Chairperson bi-weekly for further handling with the IMC. Is that connected to the point that you are making in paragraph 60 of your statement regarding the PKTT being overseen by the bodies that you've outlined in that paragraph?
Yeah, it is in line, except to say that as that submission is done, it means it will go via the National Commissioner's Office, Steering Committee, and to the DG's cluster, and then only then to the Interministerial Committee.
Okay. The recommendations are in paragraph 7. You don't need to deal with them. If I can ask you to then turn over the page, at page 18, the signature on top there, whose signature is it, and what does it signify?
It is my signature. Above there is a recommendation or not recommended. I forgot to tick recommended, but I do allude what should happen there, to say the operation will be run operationally differently, unlike other operations. And I also say there is still something outstanding, which is the budget for vehicles. So that's my signatures.
And then if you turn over the page to page 81, the top signature on that page, whose signature is it? And equally, what does it signify?
The signature is the signature of the national head of Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation, General Libya, and he recommended this specific call-up or plan.
So if you look at this document, I don't want to deal with all of them, but they mainly follow the same pattern.
They follow the same until the page 82, where the National Commissioner then approved the plan or the strategy.
Yes, I was just dealing with one so that we orientate the...
estimated amount, and then it says to be managed at Provincial Office KwaZulu-Natal. Does this mean that this operation, the PKTT, then falls under the operational control of the Provincial Commissioner KZN? It is, and I ask the question mindful that it's a national project, as I understand.
Correct, Commissioner. It is a national project. In this specific instance, yes, we're saying that it will fall under the Provincial Commissioner, KwaZulu-Natal. If I also take you to page 80, under the signature of General Masemola, hence you see I'm saying the cost center posting is different to other national operations, and it's understood that this operation is driven, is provincially driven. So to clarify what the Commissioner is asking, yes, it was driven at the province. But I must hasten to say it's not automatic that it will be like that. This was an operation that investigate political-related killings. So we were very sensitive and selective as to who gets involved. Does not necessarily mean it was a provincial commissioner. it's not automatic that if this provincial commissioner goes currently, the next one comes, it will continue with that one. No, it was a sensitive, it was a case specific, because after this political killing task team was established, a lot of politicians had interest in what they are doing, and a lot of inquiries were being made. Hence, we had to narrow those people that are involved in this operation. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Baloyi. Just at the time when you are dealing with SFM2, was the focus of the task team specifically looking at KZN, or had it looked at other provinces beyond KZN? We are now in 2018 at its inception. I'm following up from the question by Commissioner Baloyi.
Yeah, at its inception in 2019, the political killing task team was mainly looking at the province of KwaZulu-Natal.
Okay. And we know that later on in the statement, you deal with the fact that its mandate was extended beyond that province to KZN and to focus on other issues as well. Correct?
It's correct. Later, we'll clarify that they were involved in other provinces like Eastern Cape.
Right. If I can then ask you to conclude in paragraph 62, that's where you allude to where the PKTT ended up operating mainly from. You deal with KZN and Eastern Cape. If I can just ask you to deal with paragraph 62.
Yeah, the operation of the political killings task team was mainly KwaZulu-Natal, and later we extended to the Eastern Cape province under Lieutenant General Dumisani Kumalo's supervision and oversight to focus on political related crimes, of course, in KwaZulu-Natal, and also in the killings in the Eastern Cape, the investigated cases at the Fort Hare, mainly murder cases and fraud.
And again, there you reiterate, as directed by the National Steering Committee, the IMC, and the President.
Correct. Thanks, Commissioner.
And then you next deal with the initial plan and the integrated plan. In paragraph 63, that's where you make the point that you had made earlier, that the PKTT was not the first task team that had been set up or established in KZN. If I can then ask you to deal with paragraph 63, which deals with the establishment and the disbandment of the initial task team, which was then substituted or replaced by the PKTT.
Thanks, Commissioners. The political killing task team was not the first task team to establish to deal with political killing in the province. There was a previous team established in 2017, but it was not particularly effective. It wasn't successful. A decision was taken to dissolve or disband it. During the process of that disbandment of that team, a new task team was established, which is now known as the Political Killings Task Team. The previous team was disbanded in consultation with the directors, generals, or commissioners of SAPS, NPA, SSA, and correctional services. During those meetings of May, June, that's when the new team was moving out, and this new team was established. Stakeholders informed that ministers of the respective departments were informed of the decision of the directors general of the intention to dissolve the old team. So I want to make it clear also that ministerial approval was not a requirement to establish a team. The decision to disband was taken after the briefing with the Directors General. The National Commissioner took that decision to disband. At that time, it was General Ketlas Tolle who was the National Commissioner, and ultimately he took that decision, and we established a new team, which is what we currently have. During that process of establishing the PKTT, it was evident that indeed a strong operational head at the time was needed, and Lieutenant General Dumisani Khumalo, who was a brigadier then, was achieving considerable success as the commander of a project which was addressing rhino poaching in the province of Limpopo, Mpumalanga, and KwaZulu-Natal and Northwest. As the commander of that rhino poaching task team, which was quite successful, Khumalo led efforts that coordinated police, intelligence, analytical resources to conduct operations targeting poachers. So we then, before that national team started decentralizing its mandate to those provinces that I have mentioned, Limpopo, Mpumalanga, KwaZulu-Natal, Northwest. In other words, the provinces establish their own team and carry on with rhino poaching. So it was an opportune moment then that, because he was successful in that we then bring him to come and form the nucleus of establishing this new PKTT, using most of the strategies that he has been using in the rhino poaching. The formation of the PKTT represented a significant shift in how politically motivated crimes were approached, prioritizing collaboration across multiple agencies and emphasizing accountability. The cross-functional approach enabled the team to leverage expertise from various sectors. You'd recall I said the first previously team consisted of members from KwaZulu-Natal. Now this current PKTT consists of members from all provinces and national head office. So the PKTT's establishment was intended to address the complex nature of political violence, ensuring that interventions were coordinated, targeted, and responsive to evolving challenges in both KwaZulu-Natal and later in the Eastern Cape. Yes. So the investigation of these cases are not just as simple like investigating an ordinary matter. There is a lot of efforts and skill that you require to investigate these cases, and it takes time to make a breakthrough on a single case.
And so if I can just ask you to go back a bit. You speak in the second sentence of paragraph 66 about the cross-functional approach which enabled the team to leverage expertise from various sectors, thereby enhancing both investigative capacity and prosecutorial effectiveness. If I can just ask you to explain that a bit, the leveraging of expertise from various sectors. What are you talking about?
The leveraging of expertise from various sectors.
Which expertise are you talking about?
I'm referring to the team consisted of general detectives, detectives from murder and robbery, members of the DPCI, and also members of the forensic services. You are from the forensic lab. And also the team then later as we had the National Prosecuting Authority as part of the steering committee, there was a need to have prosecutors that can work with the team. And the National Prosecuting Authority did dedicate prosecutors to work with this team in KwaZulu-Natal.
Yes. And I mean, later on you deal with, in your statement, the need for collaboration between the various sectors and the National Prosecuting Authority to ensure that the investigation and cases that are referred to court meet the prosecutorial standard that is expected.
Yeah.
So as one of the central methods in this new investigative method.
Yeah, that is correct, Commissioner. That is correct, Commissioner.
Chair and members of the Commission, I'm about to move to the new to a new topic, and I'm not sure if it's a convenient time for a tea agenda.
Let's. Advocate, I know you're leaving this section. I just want to go back to 63 quickly. General, the last sentence in paragraph 63, and I assume your answer will take us to tea time. Why was it necessary, when the previous task team was disbanded, to consult with SAPS, NPA, SSA, and DCS? Why was that necessary, that the consultation take place?
Well, when we were there, because we were in Durban as those departments, we could not take a unilateral decision. Remember, the IMC consisted of ministers of those departments, and the heads of those departments were also they were also in KwaZulu-Natal. So the National Commissioner could not just decide to dissolve the old team and come up with a new one without taking his counterparts on board. Because, as you remember, one of the criticism on the team was that it had no investigative strategy, it was working in silos, it didn't have assistance or collaboration of the NPA. So now that we are moving forward with a new team, it was necessary then for the National Commissioner to bring his counterparts on board, which actually they did the analysis together to say we are now moving forward. So it was necessary that he informed them. They just don't left outside.
Let us adjourn and resume at 11:15. We are ready when you are, Mr. Mutau.
Thank you, General. If we can then deal with the next topic in your statement, it's governance and reporting structure of the PKTT, and you deal with this commencing from paragraph 67 and following. In 67, you indicate that the PKTT operates with a central command overseeing geographically spread subunits, then based at SAPS KZN HQ. Perhaps if I can ask you then to take it from there in order to also assist the Commission. You remember the Chair said when you get to these terms, you should please define them. Yes, if you can proceed from there.
Not the obvious ones like NPA or...
Correct, yes, yes. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Commissioner. The political killings task team was operating with a central command, meaning that the command was in the province under the provincial commissioner at the SAPS headquarters in the province, and that office is called Machok. Is a joint operational center, which is at the province, and you have got Tech Jocks. Tech Jocks is a tactical operations center, meaning there were 4 of them divided in the province, led by a senior commander comprising of, at those Tech Jocks, they were comprising of SAPS detectives, intelligence collectors, analysts, combat teams, that is uniform police, the DPCI investigators, and the structure coordinates intelligence and rapid response and prosecution efforts. That is, so there were 4 of those TAC jocks being commanded from the province. The governance and reporting lines of PATT reflected a multi-layered oversight and operational structure, ensuring clear accountability and coordination amongst key national and provincial stakeholders.
Yes, and then in 68.1, you then deal with the different stakeholders.
And the IMC was responsible for providing strategic direction over the PKTT, and it reported to the President and the Cabinet in terms of the work of the task team.
And you say it was intended to ensure that the PKTT's activities align with national priorities and receive appropriate guidance at the highest level of government.
That is correct, Commissioner.
Yes.
Then the SAPS SAPS-led the PKTT as the primary agents, contributing investigators, forensic support, crime intelligence resources. The task team is SAPS-led and include members from DPCI, ensuring a comprehensive approach to investigation. The SAPS coordinates operational activities and integrate relevant expertise to address politically related or motivated crimes effectively.
Is the NPA?
The National Prosecuting Authority, particularly through its KwaZulu-Natal office, played a key role in embedding prosecutors with the PKTT, and the integration facilitated prosecutorial guided throughout the investigations, ensuring that cases are built to prosecutorial standards and can be effectively presented in court. The SSA supported the PKTT by providing intelligence where applicable, particularly regarding politically targeted killings. These intelligence functions enhance the PKT's ability to anticipate, detect, and respond to threats, thereby strengthening the investigative process. The Department of Correctional Services contributed to the PKTT by assisting with matters such as witness protection and transfer of prisoners from one prison to another when the need arises. This support ensures that the security and the integrity of witnesses and the effective management of individuals in custody who are linked to ongoing investigations and or prosecutions. The provincial government was also part, which they communicated their priorities, their requirements, priorities, and challenges to the PKTT. The Premier and the MEC actively participated in this process at the beginning, representing the interests of the province and ensuring that local concerns were integrated into the broader operational framework.
And if I can just pause here, some of the stakeholders that you mentioned here were also involved as stakeholders in the previous task team. And you spoke about consulting them when that task team was disbanded. You recall in response to the question that you were asked by Commissioner Baloyi, you dealt with and provided your reasons as to why, as stakeholders, they needed to be consulted. If I can ask you to just touch on that point again.
Okay. What I was saying is that as the IMC went to the province of KwaZulu-Natal, they went with their directors generals. So during the meetings, the National Commissioner found it or saw it fit that he consult the other role players because they've got a role to play, which is what I just described now, which everyone have got a role to play. So it was important that he consult them so that they can assist with they can assist the task team with the role that they are playing. So hence you have seen the NPA must provide prosecutors, the SSA must provide intelligence, the corrections must provide movement or transfers of prisoners. Some of the prisoners or detainees might also be witnesses in other cases, and so it was necessary that that consultation takes place to make the work of the PKTT to be smooth.
And you've shown how integrated each of these services are in the implementation of the plan and the achievement of the objectives.
Correct. It was a multi-agency integrated structure, and which was prosecutor-led and coordinated through by all the departments that were represented at IMC level.
And then the next topic that you deal with in your statement is the development and approval of the PKTT strategic framework. And commencing from paragraph 70, you deal with a recommendation that had been made for the adoption of an implementation plan. And you indicate in paragraph 71 that you participated as a member of the team in the process that led to the recommendation of that PKTT implementation plan. And you indicate that that plan is dated 18 June 2018, and that is the plan that we initially dealt with earlier, that information note. You recall SFM2. So just for the benefit of the commissioners, that the document that you refer to in paragraph 71 is SFM2, which you already dealt with earlier.
That's correct, Commissioner.
Okay. And we know then that following the presentation of that plan, you say it was accepted by the then National Commissioner and thereby establishing a clear and coordinated strategic framework for the PKTT's activities. And if I can then ask you to proceed from paragraph 72, where you deal with the operational chain of command, and in paragraph 73, you deal with the oversight of the PKTT activities.
Thanks, Chair. The operational command of within the PKTT was structured to ensure clear lines of authority and effective coordination of activities. This was achieved by organizing the command through tactical joint operation centers, commanders, and the respective zone or unit leads. These leaders were responsible for managing operations within their designated areas and ensuring that actions were aligned with the overall objective of the PKTT. Oversight of the PKTT's activities was provided by the National Steering Committee, which comprised of senior officials from relevant law enforcement agencies as well as representatives from not from IMC. It was only the relevant officials from law enforcement agencies. The committee convened regularly to assess progress, address challenges, and ensure that the team's effort remained focused on its defined mandate.
And if I can just summarize, 74 and 75 deal with the operational model which you set out in parts earlier on, and then in 75 it's the identification of specific operational challenges and the goal that was sought to be achieved is something that you've already testified on. If I can ask you to then move to the next topic, being the work of the PKTT, commencing from paragraph 76.
Thanks, Commissioners. Since the PKTT was established as a task team, the National Commissioner ultimately had to approve the PKTT's budget. As part of his budget approval process, the project leader, Lieutenant General Dumisani Khumalo, would prepare an information note which would be verified by the Provincial Commissioner, Lieutenant General Mkonazi, and thereafter submitted for recommendation and approval. This information note was essentially a request for extension of the term of the team. When it was established, the PKTT's term was initially 6 months. Therefore, in order for it to continue operating, its term had to be extended for a further 6 months, and budget has to be allocated.
Sorry, if I can then just perhaps to deal with what comes after that, because it deals with aspects that you've already testified on. You indicated that the motivation for extensions would be contained in the information notes. We dealt with one example earlier where a motivation is outlined. The plan by way of objectives is also dealt with together with the budget and the time frame for which the approval related. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you've also spoken earlier on about the principle of reporting, which was intended to ensure that there was transparency and accountability in respect of the operations of the PKTT. Is that correct?
That is correct, Commissioner.
Yes. And you also indicated your participation in that process for requesting a budget, identifying the term of the extension, and the priorities that were going to be addressed. Correct?
That is correct, Commissioner.
Yes. Then if I can ask you to move to paragraph 79, where you say, when I was appointed as the National Commissioner.
Thanks, Commissioner. Maybe before I move there, let me just also explain that the team's mandate was extended from 6 months to another 6 months and eventually a year, but then eventually we had to make it permanent. Why it happens that way was that during the first 6 months and the second 6 months, the courts, or whether it's the lawyers or the accused, they will postpone their cases and request a postponement beyond the team's mandate, so that by the time the cases come to court, the team is no more there. So that forced us to end up then saying the team, announcing that the team is permanent, because otherwise cases were not being tried. They would want to know when are they going back. Once they are given the date, then they ask postponement beyond that. So hence we then make the team to say it will be permanent until the political killings subside. Going to paragraph 79, when I was appointed as the National Commissioner in 2022, I was responsible for approving extensions and budget for PKTT. I attached here what I refer to as Financial Authority from June 2018 to June 2025. The relevant extensions and financial authorities or approval are attached as SFM3. I also deal with the June 2025 approval in more detail when I address the events that occurred post the handing over of the one-to-one dockets that have become known to all South Africans.
Sorry, Advocate Mutau.
Yes, thanks.
General, the extensions, the various extensions, and then the one where the PKTT's term was made permanent, did those require ministerial approval or IMC approval?
No, they did not need the IMC approval. It only required the National Commissioner, based on what the work that he see, the National Commissioner to approve those extensions.
Thank you. And I think perhaps just if we can deal with SFM3 to make one reference correction in the annexures, where after all the annexures follow the sequence as contained or referenced in your statement. If I can ask you to turn to the second file, SFM3, on page 133. You will see from 133 to 149. That refers to the document that you seek to reference in paragraph 79. Yes, until 149.
That is correct.
And then you will see after 149 to 150. Sorry, from 150 to 153. That is a different document, and you will see when we get to the next paragraphs from 81 to 82. That SFM4 is the document at 150 to 153. So that I just want that to be corrected for the record in terms of that one reference in your statement. then we'll deal with SM4 in the next section.
Okay.
So SFM3 is supposed to go from 133 to 149. Yes, and then SFM4, you'll see it starts, if you go to paragraph 81 of your statement, you speak of the March 24 information note, and that is the one that commences at 150. If you look at paragraph 5 of 150, you'll have 24 to 25 there. And if you go to the signature page at 152, you'll see that's the March 2024 document.
Okay.
I assume this will necessitate movement of the flags,
Movement,
Mr.
yes.
Mutau. So,
Perhaps what could be done is the one should be labeled as, but I mean we'll address that probably SFM 3.1, and then it doesn't affect the rest of the sequence.
all right. We'll
Yes.
leave it to your juniors to attend
To attend to it, yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mutau.
Thank you.
Mr. Mutau, sorry, before you proceed, on a quick scanning of your SFM3,
Yes.
it looks like different periods of requests for extensions.
Yes.
Am I correct?
Yes.
I think it'd probably be helpful for the record if you would indicate the first extension date, it's pages so and so, and then the next extension date,
Okay.
pages so and so.
Yes, we'll do so.
Thank you.
And can I just request that I come back to that at a later stage, because in paragraph 79 it just simply references the fact that those extensions commence from June
Okay.
2018 to June 2025. I'll just make sure that the extensions are identified in accordance with the request. Okay. Thank you, General. Then if we can then come back to your statement. In 81, you deal with. No, sorry, perhaps before we start with 81, in paragraph 80, you made that point earlier that although it was initially mandated to deal with the political killings in KZN, it was extended to the Eastern Cape to investigate murders and related cases at the University of Fort Hare.
That is correct, Commissioner.
Now, we'll deal with that slightly later. Then in 81, you deal with the extension relating to that March 2024 period. And I had just indicated that the extension approval, which you mentioned in paragraph 82, which is SFM 4 on your current statement, it should actually be SFM 3, pages 150 to 153. We will attend to the renumbering with the evidence leaders. And perhaps if you could just give an overview of the points that you seek to make in paragraph 81 in relation to the extension of the mandate of the political task team to cover the killing of traditional leaders in KZN.
Thanks, Commissioners. Although initially the team was mandated to work in KwaZulu-Natal, later the team's mandate was extended to the Eastern Cape province to deal most specifically matters and other related cases at the Fort Hare University, and they were quite very successful in that regard. And during March 2024, The team's mandate was once again extended. A decision was taken to extend the mandate and also appointing Kumalo further as the project leader for the financial year. The mandate of the team was extended from 1st April 2024 to include the investigation of cases involving the killing of traditional leaders. This was an outcry that the minister did by then. Minister Kokta and Minister Police indicated that these traditional leaders, as they understand also the presidency, that these cases needs to be prioritized. And I then decided that I extend the mandate of the team to also include cases of traditional leaders. There were parallel major investigations that were still ongoing, like killings at Fort Hare University. There was a potential risk that the courts involving political-related cases, especially 49 trial-ready cases and 82 cases that were under investigation at the time, may collapse if we withdraw the team. Incidents of political-related cases were expected to increase as we are approaching the elections in 2024 due to unstable coalition governments at various municipalities, especially in KwaZulu-Natal.
Okay. And then in paragraph 84, you deal with an invitation from the President for the PKTT to brief, or rather for him to receive a briefing in respect of the operations and the successes of the PKTT at that point. If I can ask you to deal with that, paragraph 83.
Yes.
General, maybe before you, sorry, Mr. Mtao, before you answer the question, in paragraph 81, the extension of the mandate to cover University of Fort Hare and the traditional leaders, who made that decision to extend?
I made that decision because of the outcry that was there.
Can I ask a follow-up question? My understanding is that there were various task teams throughout the country. Why specifically the PKTT? What was it about it?
When the killings did happen, yes, there was the provincial commissioner did put a task team to do investigation, but as we have seen there is no progress, then the reason why we called the PKTT is because of its nature of success. You could see that, if I may go to Fort Hare, the Fort Hare cases were being investigated by the province of Eastern Cape, the SAPS in the Eastern Cape, including the DPCI in that province for quite some time, over a year or so. And there wasn't much of success. And because of this team, one knows how successful it is in most cases. Then we ask that they assist in the Eastern Cape. And indeed, within a short space of time, they were able to resolve most of the cases at the university. Normally, people say that where you have the Kumalo investigating, if there is a case, definitely you will face the full might of the law. So in this case also it proved that way. Thank you.
And when we deal with the documents later, we will show that in respect of both these extensions, the presidency was contacted, both in relation to the extension of the mandate of the PKTT to include the matters at the University of Fort Hare and in the Eastern Cape, and in relation to the killings of traditional leaders. And you will explain at that point with reference to those documents. what the reference to the presidency and how that cascaded, if at all, from that to yourself in respect of implementation. But I don't want to take you out of sequence in your evidence. If then you can proceed, subject to the commissioners having finished their questions, to deal with the briefing of the President at the Durban airport following his request.
Yeah, it was. There was an invitation from the President. He was for other work in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, and he invited the team on 17 March at Durban Airport, and members of the team, together with myself and the Minister, did brief the President on the work of the team. This was the last briefing to the President on the PKTT before his disbandment, and the attached presentation to that is SFM5. So that day they did
Sorry,
briefing.
just for ease of location, that presentation is at pages 167 to 186, file 2.
Thank you, Mr. Mtao.
Thank you. We'll come back to some of those details later. Yes, and then you proceed in paragraph 84, and you provide the statistics which you say highlights the successes of the PKTT since its inception in June 2018 until the 28th of February 2025. If I can just ask you to deal with those, commencing from 84.1.
Yeah, as at 28th of February 2025, the following statistics highlights the success of the PKTT since 2018. They had 612 dockets that have been allocated. 125 of these dockets are still under investigation. 9 were unfounded. Unfounded means that you can say it's a false case. They were finding a lot of those during the time. And 10 were pending the DPP's decision as to whether to prosecute or not. 114 were at various calls, 57 were withdrawn for various reasons, and 297 were finalized. Finalized means either guilty or no guilty or alternative dispute resolution, whatever the outcome of will it be. The outcome of this highlights both the complexity and the challenges inherent in prosecuting politically related cases. As I said, commissioners earlier, the cases are quite very complex when one investigates them. So they need more skill, more time.
But perhaps if you could just shed some light to the Commission, what is it that is complicated about investigating these or prosecuting these politically related cases?
What it entails is that you have somebody, we call it a hit orderer, somebody that orders that somebody be killed, and they have to procure a hitman, which is Nkabi. You must somewhere procure also a firearm, and then at some point then get the firearm to the Nkabi and make sure that then the hit is undertaken. So to link all those people.
Sometimes procure spotters as well.
Yeah, sometimes they procure spotters that will check where are the people. So after the killing, sometimes complex, difficult to link all those people. And there are those that have got, they've invented some new modus operandis in terms of how they deal with. But I wouldn't say it because it will educate others. So that's how complex it was. And in some cases, especially of cases of intimidation and attempted murders, councillors will go as far as getting into their cars and say somebody must shoot, but just make sure you shoot just on the shoe, don't shoot too deep on the bone. And in that process, sometimes because the person is in the boot, you shoot from outside, always an accident happens, then they get seriously injured. And that was done purely to derive to fight for protection, to say one's bodyguard, I've been shot at. But when investigations at later stage, sometimes it reveals that no, but where you say there was a shooting, it was only you and the protector who was there, or it was somebody, not a protector. So then they will then confess that, yeah, no. I wanted to make sure that I get a budget from municipality for protection. That's how at length they went. So that's why I say these cases are quite complicated.
Okay. And the intervention should be equally sophisticated to deal with them.
Yes, also yes, the intervention, because if you use local police, sometimes they know local politicians. It becomes much more easier and for them maybe to be swayed or persuaded in the investigation. Hence, we use members from other provinces. We know it's expensive, but it's worth it, because if we use local police, it's always a problem. And I must say, after the team was there, a lot of people that needed to know the work of the team was quite a lot of them. And we were briefing based on who wants to know what, not briefing everybody on what the team was doing.
And then, in essence, between paragraph 86 to 90, you continue to set out the statistics that highlight the successes of the PKTT. I don't need you to deal with those, because the Commission will see the figures as they are outlined there. But there are 2 points that I'd like you to deal with from those paragraphs. In paragraph 86, you make a point that in your view the PKTT is hugely successful. And you say, as will be dealt with in detail later, on 6 March 2025, Lieutenant General Kumalo presented the PKTT's successes to Minister Senzo Mchunu in an effort to convince him that his decision to disband the PKTT was ill-advised, to the extent that he was advised at all. If I can just ask, maybe just for you to explain to the Chair and the Commissioners, what point do you seek to make here?
Yeah, the point I seek to make here on paragraph 86 was that, well, we know that the team was successful, commissioners, in doing its work. So on the 6th of March, there was invitation for the minister to go and discuss the disbandment plan. You would recall that the minister issued the letter 31st December to disband the team. So I did seek audience immediately thereafter, which it never come quicker. If ever we met on other matters, but not on this one. So 6 March, the purpose was to discuss the disbandment plan. But then we then put also a summary of the success of what the team has done, even though we know that it was sent to the minister's report of the 20th of January. The aim was, of course, also to maybe convince him to think otherwise about the team. at this particular
General,
meeting.
sorry to interrupt you. I'm not at all questioning your assertion with regard to success, but I just want to understand it. You referred to 612 dockets, and you say of those, 297 were finalized. That's at 84.7. Can you please just explain how exactly you measure success? 612 and 297 finalized. I do see that's very close to 50%.
Yeah, finalize, commissioners. I might not have the exact figures here, which I'm sure General Khumalo will bring it on board later. It means that it's cases that are finalized, be it.
No, you did explain that. You did explain what finalized mean. What I want to focus on now is the assertion that the PKTT is hugely successful. And I'm not questioning that. I'm not suggesting that it is not hugely successful. I just want to understand how you measure success.
Oh, thanks, Commissioner. How we measure success, we measure it in terms of cases where the team did get a conviction. That's how we measure success. That is cases where there is convictions, even if there is no sentencing yet, but once there is conviction, then that we counter as a success. Detection of suspects and getting them for court, and eventually, if there is a conviction, then that is the success.
I don't know to what extent this may be of relevance to the findings and possibly even recommendations we make at the end. But regarding head to the fact that you said finalized encompasses different categories of finalization, and you are now focusing on convictions, and we are looking at 297, which is a figure relating to all those categories. So it makes it very difficult for one to have a sense of, for example, the convictions, because with regard to success, you seem to focus on convictions. So if you have this globular total, you have no idea as to what exactly the success is if one looks at convictions. But I guess it would be very unfair of me to require you to give those statistics here if you do not have them in your affidavit. Perhaps let's leave it there.
Thanks, Chair. General, did I understand you correctly when you said Lieutenant General Khumalo is going to deal with this issue in more detail?
That's correct.
Did I understand you correctly?
That's correct, Commissioner. He will deal with the details of that.
And he will provide those statistics.
That is correct.
Mr. Madau,
Yes.
Perhaps General Khumalo will deal with it. You will indicate if that's the intention.
Yes.
But it's a slightly different angle and a follow-up on the Chair's question. Now, in this presentation to the President, General, and I'm looking at page 168, and in paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, bullet point 5, you say, as of July 2018, the team is allocated and accounts for 329 dockets of politically related cases. That is the presentation in March 2014. And then in your statement at paragraph 84.1, you say, since June 2018, the PKTT has 612 dockets allocated to it. Should we read this to mean that the difference between 612 and the 329 as at March 2024 is in fact the increase in dockets from April 24 to
February 25.
Yeah, is that what it means, or is it just a case of how the evidence is presented, Mr. Mutau, that there's no detail and a bit of it is lost in there somewhere?
Sorry, Commissioner, you say on...
So if you look at 168,
yes.
bundle B, or the second bundle, that's the presentation to the President, and bullet point 5, you say that at July 2018, 329 dockets had been allocated as July 2018, so March 2024. And then your statement says as at February 2025, which is a year later, the PKTT has 612 dockets. Is that an indicator of the growth in dockets? Is it a question of the numbers? Because it's like a 50%, nearly 50% increase in dockets in 1 year.
Yeah, it's an increase from 329 to then the current, which is 612. Is an increase of extra allocation of dockets.
So as at the time that the minister makes a decision to disband, you're now dealing in the region of about 612
Yes, that's
dockets.
correct. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're about to touch on paragraph 86, and you were dealing with reference to a meeting of 6 March 2025, which we know, which you say you will deal with it in detail a little later. But you... In this paragraph, you talk about...
Yes, Commissioner.
Yes, and you deal with them from 86.1 to 86.5. And then in 87, you deal with how they were allocated. You see that?
Yes.
From 87.1 until 87.3. That's how you deal with the allocation of the 333 dockets.
Yes, Commissioner.
And then in paragraph 88, you deal with the 18 dockets that pertained to the incidents of killings at the University of Fort Hare. And you break those down into 14, 2, and 2. You see that?
Correct, Commissioner.
And then in paragraph 89, you deal with the team having been further allocated 51 dockets that are associated with matters targeting traditional leaders. And you break those down into 48 and 3. You see that?
Correct.
Please,
Commissioner.
Yes.
please hold your thought and don't forget where you were, Mr. Mutau.
Thank you.
General, can you please explain the 333 dockets at the top of page 27? Where does that number come from? The last number that had been referred to was the 612 at 84.1, and then at 86, just before 86.1, there's reference to 333 dockets. Where does that come from?
The 333, if I go back and look at it, it will come from the same 612. It's not an extra number above 612. It comes from the same 612. What I need to just probably go and check back is the 297, because as to the 297 and the 333.
Perhaps if you turn to page 411, it might assist.
411.
411.
That's under SFM 12.
Mr. Mtau, I realize that we didn't give your bundles any name, and I'm worried that the record might just struggle you moving between the two bundles, and it's not clear for purpose of the record that now you're referring to a different bundle.
So, Commissioner, we had said file 1 and file 2.
Oh,
So
maybe,
Masemola.
yeah, maybe for uniformity, what we did, sorry, my co-commissioner, what we did with General Mukwanazi's files, we called them Mukwanazi 1 and Mukwanazi 2.
Oh.
So perhaps we should, for uniformity, do something similar here, and for the statement, we call that Masemola 1, and then the annexures Masemola 2. And then when council refers to them, you do the same. Thank you.
Thank you,
Commissioners.
Yes, National Commissioner, I directed you perhaps in that discussion with the chair regarding 333 dockets to page 411 of Masemola 2. And then perhaps you could explain it from there.
Okay, thanks, Commissioners. If you go to Masemola 2, ne?
Yes. And also bearing in mind what the chair's question is. The
Yes.
chair's question is relative to the number of 612 that you had provided as being the total number of dockets. Where does 333 come in?
Correct.
Or fit
So if you go to is SFM 12 on page 412, right at the bottom left, you'll find the 612 dockets totally that was allocated to the team. That is the total. And then when you go to page 411 of the same document, on the top left corner, you'll find the 333 cases. And if you look at the topic of that is political related cases. There were 333 totally for the whole period. And then the breakdown comes there. Just the writing is not so good.
So which one are you looking at? Do you want to deal with parallel cases or you want to deal with ad hoc cases?
The breakdown of the 333 is on the...
Yes, on the top column.
Yeah, on the top column, there is 53, 3, 2, 1, 1, 7, 4, 6, 11. So what I was saying was that the topics on top are just not readable. But that's where the 333 refers to political related cases of the 612. And then the 90 below refers to parallel cases of the same 612. And then the 120 on the same page is ad hoc cases, 120 of the same one, of the same 612.
But perhaps to assist the Commission, what are parallel cases and what are ad hoc cases?
Parallel cases.
I'm aware that you said General Khumalo will
Yes.
give more detail on this, but
Yeah.
the commissioners need the information now to make sense of these
Yes.
numbers.
Parallel cases are those cases where they will find that their suspect, beside them investigating him for political related case, they find that this fellow have also committed, let's say, robbery somewhere, either a robbery of common robbery, then that case will be is not political related. So meaning it's not necessarily the mandate of this team, but they are investigating this suspect. Then they will take that case to make it as a parallel case.
Okay.
And then ad hoc cases also are those cases that are necessarily not political related, but the same accused might have been arrested for possession of illegal firearm at a different police station or in an unrelated matter. But then the team, in order to bring these cases together, to know better their client, then they will take those cases and investigate them. So those cases are not political related, but their client is involved in those cases. And then traditional leadership cases.
This is over the page at 412.
Yeah, if you turn the page
Yeah,
from
412.
411 to...
Just over the page.
Yes. Traditional related cases relate to killings of traditional leaders, be it the Nkosis and the Indunas. And not necessarily killings alone, it might also mean attempted murders and so on. And then University of Fort Hare cases, those were cases of murder and fraud and corruption and so on at the University of Fort Hare. And the last column is the overall total of 612. But I must go back to the parallel cases and the ad hoc cases. I would want to leave that also more specifically for General Khumalo to come and explain the detailed difference between the two. Don't want to conclude on that one.
Yes, but
Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mutau. This clarifies it.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you to you as well, General.
Thanks, Commissioner.
General, in paragraph 90 of your statement, the last sentence, you say the PKTT has an unmatched success rate. Now, I want to bring you back to paragraph 84, perhaps to further clarify the question that the chair was asking. If one is merely looking at 612 dockets, and of those, 297 were finalized, it would appear, just on the face of that there are less cases that were finalized than the cases that had been allocated. You see that? Because if you just look at 612 and subtract 297 from that number.
Correct.
It would be less than half the total number of dockets.
Correct.
And I think it is in that context that the chair is asking the question to say how do you then measure success, particularly with reference to the point you make in paragraph 86 and the last sentence that I referred you to in paragraph 90 of your...
Factoring into that, the fact that finalization does not mean convictions only. There are several categories under that term.
Yeah.
So the 297 in terms of convictions is even reduced further, as it were. So please respond to Mr. Mutau's question.
Thanks, Commissioner. The finalization in this regard, will recall that the dockets of at Fort Hare University, there has been arrest made. Those cases are still at court, have not yet finalized, because the trial of this type of cases take long. And also take into account that I think it was over 51 of the traditional leaders' dockets. Mm-hmm. The team only took those dockets in 2024. So there couldn't have been more move in terms of investigation of those cases. So, and it doesn't mean that they might have made a lot of arrests, but the cases will still be at court and not finalized as we mean in terms of conviction. So that's the difference. It's not expected that if they've got 612 dockets, there shall be 612 convictions. No, it doesn't work that way. They might have made arrests, but cases take time. We can refer to this very same year. We might have seen a number of convictions coming from the very same cases of the team that comes a long way.
So perhaps it may be shortchanging the PKTT to focus on convictions only. I would imagine that, and I think it is stated somewhere in your affidavit, there may be instances where there is no movement at all in terms of detection and arrests. But upon the PKTT taking over, there's suddenly movement in that regard. And you get arrests and you get people appearing in court. So it may not necessarily lead to convictions in the end. But the fact that suddenly there's movement,
correct,
does make a difference.
That's correct, Commissioner. Especially if we look at the Fort Hare one, there was no movement at all. But after the team intervened, people were arrested, people were brought at court. So then the cases are still in the process at the court.
Of course, one assumes that the arrests would not be arrests for the sake of it, and that it would be arrests that are justified in the circumstances.
Yes, correct, Commissioner.
Mr. Mutawi, if I may, you, General, in that paragraph 90 rather, you say that the PKTT has an unmatched success rate. Obviously, you and the Minister disagree. In his letter, we know he says that it adds no value, or some language to that effect. Now, when you say the success is unmatched, what are your comparators? What is your point of reference against which you are comparing to say the success of the team is unmatched?
Yeah, it will be difficult to match the work of the team with a province or a district because they work across. When one uses that word unmatched, is that there is cases that they would have been dead with no progress. But once you get this team into that case, you will see movement, you'll see arrests. Like, let's go back, I think somewhere we talk about a number of cases which the team had somewhere in 2018, which come from the previous team with very little success. But after this team was then put into work, they were able to make a breakthrough in a lot of those cases. The next example in point is the Fort Hare. Like I was saying, some of the fraud cases there in Fort Hare, the DPCI has been investigating them for more than a year. And we haven't had a breakthrough. But after we got this team at Fort Hare, there was a progress on murders, frauds, and corruption. So that's what one refers to, that they bound to make a breakthrough. We can go as far as in Gauteng province, where we had cases of murders and drugs related, which after the team the Gauteng team seek assistance of KwaZulu-Natal, and we allowed 10 members of the political King's task team to assist Gauteng. They started making a breakthrough, and also they unraveled more than what the team in Gauteng would have found. So that, in its case, in its nature, we are saying that the team is a success. If the KwaZulu-Natal political King's task team members didn't come to Gauteng, we would not have the current rate of unraveling, the arrest of Abu Molefe, the arrest of Abu Ket, and of course there is still others on the line that still needs to be processed. So by saying that their success is unmatched, that's what we refer. But then saying on the minister's letter that he assessed and there was no value, I don't know what that statement is come from. I don't know the assessment, when, where was it done, with who, I don't know. Well, probably that may come later, but I don't know what assessment was done. But what we know is what I'm sure everybody knows, everybody sees, a lot of convictions that are happening even now for cases, and the team is still doing its work, and they are quite successful.
Thanks. And we'll deal with that part when you deal with your interaction with the minister. But one of the things that you mentioned there is that there are 3 people who had information that is relevant in respect of the activities of the PKTT, and you say it is yourself, General Kumalo, and General Mkhwanazi, and that none of you were consulted by the minister to receive a briefing on the activities of the task team. Without necessarily going into detail, because I know that we will deal with that issue, but perhaps you could just highlight very briefly that point with reference to with Commissioner Baloyi's question based on the minister's letter and what the minister says.
Okay, thanks, Commissioners. With regard to that, in the letter where the minister says, after assessment, the team is not adding value to subs or to the country. I can't recall the exact wording. I'm sure for one to come to that conclusion, yes, you must have done assessment. And when you do assessment, obviously you will talk to people that are dealing with the matter at hand. In this case is the PKTT. So in order for one to have had briefing of the PKTT, the minister would have definitely have briefing from General Mkonazi, or have briefing from Dumisani Kumalo, or had briefing from myself. To an extent, maybe 30% maybe should have had briefing from Lieutenant General Libya, because Lieutenant General Libya at some point he headed the National Steering Committee. But it didn't go far. He left it. So he wouldn't know the complete work of the team. There is no way he will know it. So then to come to that conclusion without having this briefing, I wonder who briefed him, because that's for sure I know. There is nobody that knows the work of the team than those, unless you go to the junior commanders of the team, which we inquired, and that is not the case. Thank you.
Okay. All right. We'll come back to that issue when, like I indicated, we deal with your statement in relation to the interactions that you had with the minister, and when in relation to the minister's decision of 31 December, where those engagements held. But if I can just perhaps touch on one aspect in relation to the activities of the PKTT. And I'm aware that Major General Kumalo will deal with that aspect, among other things, when he goes into detail regarding the PKTT's operations. But one of the aspects that you mentioned earlier is the difference between getting to the hitman and getting to the mastermind. And one of the methods through which the PKTT operates is that it does not deem it sufficient to merely arrest the hitmen, and that there may be instances where they do know who the hitmen are, but in order to resolve the crime in its entirety, they may decide not to arrest the hitmen that are known because they want to get to the bigger fish, for lack of a better description. If you could just perhaps touch on it, because earlier on you as you're distinguishing the different role players, one of the models upon which the PKTT operates is that one. If I can just ask you to very briefly touch on it.
Yeah, thanks, Commissioners. Well, investigation, as the team do investigation, they apply a lot of strategies. At some point, they'll throw their dockets together and allow them to swim, and so that they can see which direction should they go without rushing to get to arrest the hitmen, because sometimes if they do that, they will lose the rest of the chain. So sometimes they will identify some spotters and start with them in order to get to the mastermind, or use even the hitmen for information purposes and collection. So they were applying various methodologies which are legal, and there is nothing wrong or illegal in them. But their strategies, was that they wouldn't just rush to arrest a specific person for the sake of arresting. They will investigate their cases thoroughly and determine in the whole value chain of the hit orderer, the spotters, the one that procure the firearm, the Ngabe, they will determine where to start which way to move forward or move backwards. So they will always use those strategies. That's how the team became successful.
In fact, I was going to ask you that are those considerations relevant in determining the success and the statement that you make when you say their success rate is unmatched?
Yeah, indeed, it does also indicate their. Yeah, it does talk to them being successful, because they do untangle sometimes cases that would have been closed as either become cold case or they are not resolved.
I think we can just leave that aspect. Major General Khumalo will deal with it as the person with the details. If I can then ask you to turn to page 29, your paragraph 91 of Masemola 1. You deal there with the point that the IMC was regularly briefed on the progress and success of the PKTT, and you attach the different presentations that were made to the PKTT on 3 August 2018 until 6 September 2023. And those are attached as Annexure SFM 6. Is that correct? Yeah.
Is correct, Commissioner?
And that, for the benefit of the Commission, it starts at pages 191 to 359 of Masemola 2.
Mr. Mutau, will you, with this as well, as we requested previously, please?
Yes. Well, yes, I'll do that in line with the earlier request.
Okay.
When we deal with some of the relevant aspects in those presentations. But perhaps where I'd like us to start with the contents of that paragraph is the second part, where you say, as far as I'm aware, there were no further IMC meetings after the 6th of September 2023. Now, would that period extend until the minister took a decision to disband the task team? In other words, between the period 6 September 2023 to 31 December 2024. Is that period covered by the statement that, as far as you are aware, there were no further IMC meetings?
Yeah, that is correct, Commissioner. Since that was the 6th September 2023, which is referred to as SFM 7, is the last IMC briefing that was done.
Then you continue to make the point in the next sentence to further illustrate the point that the PKTT was viewed as effective. I was able to source the media briefing held by former Minister of Police, Minister Cele, wherein he expressed the IMC's positive view of the PKTT and its successes. And you refer to Annexure SFM 7. And if I can ask you to turn to page 360 of Masemola 2. And if I can ask you to deal with the first 6 paragraphs on that page. You will see the document is headed Speaker Notes from the Police Minister at the time, Minister General Bheki Cele, on behalf of the IMC on political killings in KwaZulu-Natal, and it was delivered on the 6th of September 2023. And then just after ladies and gentlemen, if I can ask you to just deal with those paragraphs that follow. From I address until just before ladies and gentlemen of the media.
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner. In that press briefing, which was hosted by the then Minister, he says, I addressed this media briefing this morning on behalf of the Interministerial Committee on Political Killings, consisting of Minister of State Security, Defense, Justice and Correctional Services, and myself, the Minister of Police, who also chairs the IMC. The IMC held its meeting on Tuesday in Durban, where it was presented with a detailed briefing on the work of the Integrated Multidisciplinary Task Team investigating political killings in KwaZulu-Natal since 2018 to date. In its 5 years of existence, the committee has provided the nation with several updates. The last one took place in February 2022. The committee remains committed to encouraging political tolerance by individuals and parties, whether before, during, or after elections period and beyond. However, through the integrated work of the task team, the IMC is as committed to arrest those who use violence to settle political scores. This task team includes the SAPS, NPA supported by State Security Agency and Correctional Services, the Premier and MEC for Community Safety and Liaison of KwaZulu-Natal. It is on this score that the IMC wishes to categorically put it on record that the initial mandate given to the committee by His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa in 2018, not to allow KZN to be a killing field, is still on course.
And then if I can ask you to please turn to page 362 under the heading Regional Stability. And if I can ask you to first deal with the first paragraph under that heading.
It says, members of the task team, we know that cases were not properly investigated, which often led to suspects not being arrested.
And then if I can ask you to skip the following paragraphs and deal with the last one just before, ladies and gentlemen. The IMC. The one that says the IMC is encouraged.
The IMC is encouraged that interventions are in place to deal with all forms of politically related crimes proactively and reactively in the eThekwini and in the Zululand district.
And then if I can please ask you to turn to page 369 and deal with the conclusion.
Mr. Madau, maybe before you leave this page, top of the page 362, General, would that not be considered a success, what is set out on top of page 362?
The one that says the task team is conducting intelligence-driven operation targeting possession of unlicensed firearms, which has resulted in 172 cases. Over 250 unlicensed firearms have been taken off the street through the police operations. It is regarded as a success, but however, these specific cases will fall either on that category of ad hoc or parallel.
Yes.
But I think it's more ad hoc, but it's a success.
When Chairperson was asking you, when you say the task team was hugely successful, what does success mean? And at that time, you limited it only to convictions. Now, my question is, if they remove 250 unlicensed firearms from the streets, which I assume could be used for later killings, Is that not a success of the task team?
Well, it is a success. Commissioner, sometimes one sees things as obvious, so you don't, because to me it's obvious, so you sometimes not mention them. But indeed, that is a success.
Thank you. If I can then ask you to turn to page 369 and to deal with the conclusion.
In conclusion, on behalf of the IMC, I wish to dispel any notion that seeks to cast doubt in the work of the task team investigating political killings in KZN. Today's briefing has not only demonstrated the progress in the work that falls within the mandate of the task team, it has also revealed the continuous efforts by the task team to ensure that firearms linked to crime scenes and taken off the streets. The work of the task team has been commendable and is fully supported by the IMC. The committee encourages enhanced and maintained collaboration between departments of police, state security, National Prosecuting Authority, Justice and Correctional Services in order to stabilize political violence in the province and beyond. The work of the task team extends beyond being exemplary in the and killings. I thank you. And killings. I thank you.